Hey guys, how are you? For the next video, we're going to make a reception desk with a curved corner, basically in the shape of an L. I've never done a reception desk. I'm looking forward to it. Let's get into the video, and I appreciate you watching. Thank you.
Here I'm ripping down plywood to make the pieces to use for framing, about 3 inches wide out of 3/4 plywood. Using my jigsaw with a jig to cut a radius. I used a 12-inch radius for this build. The saw I'm using is made by Festool. It's really good at stuff like this. I like it. Here I'm cutting the inside radius, which will leave me with a 3-inch wide curve to match the 3-inch wide framing for my top and bottom plate. I'm ripping the framing leg at 3 inches. Here I used my Japanese saw to cut the 2 plates in half. Not necessary, but it's fun and it makes sense.
Alright, so I have these 2 pieces here. Look kind of like a candy cane. And the idea here is that this will be my plates, just like I'm framing a wall. And I'm going to have the framing coming up like this. So this plate will be on top. I hope you can see that. The other one will be on the bottom, and that creates my curve. It should be strong enough to hold the stone. And then I just have to create more framing this way to complete the L. I hope it makes sense so far. I'm learning also.
Here I'm attaching the framing using a pre-drilled hole with a impact driver.
All right, so I framed out the curved main structure of the cabinet. I applied this flexible plywood. It's about 3/8 inch thick. I put some construction adhesive and I nailed it all the way across. I left a little bit proud on the edges and up top. I'm gonna flush that up with a router bit, but we're in good shape. I'll let that sit overnight, and tomorrow I'll come back and we'll finish this up.
Here I'm using my thickness planer to mill the wood down to the final dimension. Here's the glued up top.
Okay, so you can see I have this framing in the same shape as the bigger part of the desk. I put on a flexible plywood just like I did to the other piece. I have one more piece to glue on and nail. I can let this sit overnight, and this will become a second level of the top, and hopefully we're going to make some soapstone for this. We'll see if that happens, and we'll move on from there. All right, so we're doing our template for soapstone on the top tier of the desk. We're using cheap plywood here. We're gonna hot glue this on there, make a template out of this with the radius we need, and then we'll use this piece and transport it onto the soapstone, and then we'll cut that, and we'll show that after this.
We made a template out of the plywood so that we could trace this onto the soapstone before we cut it. Here's us using a track saw made for cutting stone. And then we use the grinder to make this cut.
Okay, so we have the rough shape cut out, as you can see. We have to use the opposite side of the scrap piece just to get enough stone out of what we had left. So we're going to smooth this surface remarked with the template, and then eventually this will look like a nice piece of stone.
This is us getting rid of the imperfections in the stone. We used this stone that was left over from a job, so we had to really clean it up and make it work, but it worked out nice. This is me grinding down and sanding the top to get it flat before cutting it for the top. Here we're using a grinder to make a radius on the soapstone. This is a polishing wheel so that it grinds the stone to a point that it is finished and ready for oil. This is fitting the miter for the wood top on the first tier of the desk. Looks good. Here's the soapstone after polishing, and after we wipe it down, it'll be ready for oil. This is using a lamello, which is a fancy tool. I could get into detail later, but it basically cuts biscuits for a different variety of functions. In this case, I'm cutting slots so that I can use a biscuit with an Allen key that uses a cam to tighten the joint when I install it. That's me showing the one half of the biscuit going in there. This is the Allen key that closes it with a cam. It basically closes the joint and keeps it tight. This is me scribing the curved top. This is obvious, it's me painting with a matte black paint that will go underneath the desk. Here I'm applying Rubio Monocoat oil for the finish. That way everything is ready to go and we can just cut it and nail it onto the top with a little bit of glue. This is all the pieces oiled and ready for the final cut and assembly. This is the piece after we installed everything before delivering it. Here's a shot of the first part of the install, which was the base of the desk before applying the top. This shot is after the top was installed and glued and scribed to the wall. Now we're ready for the top tier and the soapstone. We screwed this piece on to the framing and the base. The screws will be hidden by the top. Here's a shot coming out of the hallway of the studio we installed it into after we were done the installation.
The desk is complete. I hope you guys liked it. I had a good time building this one. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions, criticism, maybe not so much of that, let me know. I'll see you on the next one. Thank you very much for following along. I really do appreciate it.